I diluted and then I regret, okay, now I become employee, why should I work? But if all these things are mentally clear to me, I'm building for long term, I'm building for solving a real problem. I don't mind becoming an employee and doing it because I created an infrastructure which will last beyond my life, right? Important thing is, as a founder, are you still adding value? As a founder, are you still believe in building the thing? Are you founder, are you still critical for the business? Yeah, India is not one India, as we continuously say, it's like a three India types, like Bharat is a large part of it. So what India did, access is a big problem, access to technology is a big problem. So India did, like particularly if I take fintech, that what we call a ZAM, Jandan and Aadhaar and mobile, that really changed the game for India if you look at that sector particularly. See, nowhere in the world which has got this kind of setup. So if you can really solve, what we call as a physical to digital match, that kind of person is not available in Silicon Valley. Cost of compliance. Look, see, if you expect me to really operate like a bank in terms of compliance, my compliance team today is probably 1/4 of the entire company, bigger than the sales team. So I joke now that compliance the sales guy के साथ मैं compliance को भेज देता हूँ, वो एक साथ ही करके आ जाएगा. Because it is just not possible without that, because I have to do KYC, KYB, everything, and then re-KYC, and that is what really hurts. I think there is some way it is possible in terms of regulation is definitely required so that it should not start a business, then you realize. But regulation can be light. Like most of the countries, when we actually applied for international licenses or look at subsidiaries, most of the countries are something like a light touch model and then a high touch model.
So on one particular point I want to double click on, right? So you're an angel investor, you already invested in so many places, so you have extensive experience. When you go for very early dilution and you dilute really fast and very quickly, by the third, fourth, fifth round, you as a founder are like an employee. Motivation level becomes a challenge, right? I'm sure you work with all kinds of startups of different sizes, you've seen this happening. You want to double click on this and then move to the next question. We would love to hear your thoughts on this.
This is a very good question because unfortunately startups go through multiple life cycles which you have not really thought when you have got into this thing. Sometimes you are really successful or do much better than what you expected, but more likely you will go through lot of areas where you have to think what I need to do next. Do I want to save my company now, or I want to hold on the, for example, a lot of good examples like M2 or Falcon or something, they bootstrapped for a very, very long period of time. So I just spoke to M2P founder a couple of months back. So for multiple times they thought, how to really survive because there is not much business, and particularly the Falcon M2P kind of lines, it'll take a lot of time for a bank or a financial institution to trust you to give the business. So what is important for you to what conviction you come in and what is your motivation, real motivation to do it. For example, when we did our startup, we actually three of us sat down and said why we are doing this. And what happens, these are the 5 stress points comes in, what will you decide? I think it is important for a founder to understand what is more critical. Is it critical for you to hold the ownership or build value? Is it important for you to create some, solve a real problem? Is it important for you to give value to your stakeholders? Obviously, it is not one against other. It is a combination of all 3, or probably you can have more aims. But you have to be very clear in your mind. So what happens when the stress happens, when you take a decision? All of us take all the decisions, right? So you will not really regret. So when your question comes in that I diluted and then I regret, okay, now I become employee, why should I work? But if all these things are mentally clear to me, I am building for long term, I am building for solving a real problem. I don't mind becoming an employee and doing it because I created an infrastructure which will last beyond my life, right? But if I created this to really create a lot of valuation for myself, wealth, I diluted, but then the wealth got created, then you said, oh, I have only 5%. But still, if you're critical, OYO is a great example. The investor gave him loan to buy back the shares. So important thing is, as a founder, are you still adding value? As a founder, are you still believe in building the thing? Are you founder, are you still critical for the business? If all these things are there, I don't think you have to get into this question.
Awesome. Words of wisdom. There was ChatGPT, AI and LLMs coming out all over the place. This is super relevant and super interesting. Startups beyond Silicon Valley, can startups thrive in a non-technical industry? And what opportunities exist for innovation there? Because now with the level playing field, with technology, with LLMs and ChatGPT and everything else, what are your thoughts on this?
So Silicon Valley, if you look at the startups, we really celebrate early days as Google. And Airbnb, or like you can think of startups which came really, they become like a global leader very, very quickly kind of thing. See, what Silicon Valley provides that, they really try to solve a problem, mostly which is take late. And they got quick access to capital. Like the capital availability is, like I spent some time over there, is tremendously high. If you are really getting successful, like 100 million, you'll follow immediately. And if you can fail flat, that's okay. And you can still get capital next time. So people go all out and trying to build that. See, for us, we actually spend a lot of time, in the early stage journey. Like there, it doesn't happen. If you're really getting good traction, you got a product market fit, you can actually move much, much quicker. So one of my friends has come, we together went to a lot of Silicon Valley startups to understand what is happening. So beat LinkedIn, and you can take anything, but core is tech. They built everything around tech. But if you look at India, India is not one India, as we continuously say, it's like a three India types, like Bharat is a large part of it. So what India did, access is a big problem, access to technology is a big problem. So India did, like particularly if I take fintech, that what we call a ZAM, Jandan and Aadhaar and mobile, that really changed the game for India if you look at that sector particularly. See, nowhere in the world which has got this kind of setup. For example, I'll just give an example. We are just started 2 years back, but in our we started with mobile. We're the first in the world to start with a mobile app. We thought everybody is using Google Pay, Phone Pay kind of thing. Why can't exporter can't get money on the phone itself? So we started on, say, onboarding is 5 minutes. We do entire thing digitally. Checking is KYC, KYB, or everything. Then we get him onboarded on our platform, and within instantly we give 5 virtual account and 5 currencies. It is unthinkable. India, if you go as a corporate to open an account, it will take 3 weeks to get an account, in a bank, and that will not work for 1 week because they'll say some signature mismatch and all those things. So India has that opportunity of building those kind of businesses, be it logistics. You look at Easygo, a lot of models has come in, healthcare. So because the access is a problem and people have got a mobile phone, so a lot of Indian startup founders thought, how can I reach to that level and start to build product like that, which is not there in the Silicon Valley ecosystem kind of thing. Yes, we have got some copies like Uber, Ola, and there are multiple such copies available because it is very easier to do, right? Like I think this is possible over there. Why can't I do something? Like I was giving an example, like PayPal is charging 8%. I'm charging less than 1%. That's what a bootstrap level we could charge that. Because in India, it is possible to rethink. It is possible that network is available. So if I know how smartly I'll deploy that, I can come up with a much better idea compared to what idea is available. I think that's the difference today from a building side, infra side, and in terms of availability side. What? So if you can really solve, what we call as a physical to digital match, that kind of person is not available in Silicon Valley.
That's really, really interesting. Fintech's regulatory conundrum. What are the key challenges faced by fintech founders and how can policymakers address them to prevent an exodus? It's a very pointed question.
I think this has come because regulation in some areas like B2B lending kind of thing came slightly later. So when the companies are built, a lot of VCs has pumped in money, then they said, who moved my cheese kind of thing. But in some areas, regulation and regulatory oversight is actually good. See, for example, I'm in cross-border payment. I have to build my compliance ecosystem because there is so much AML, KYC, terrorist funding, so many things happen. One of the VCs, like in the initial days, one of the top 6 VCs, I'll not name him, I told him that I'll build my compliance team first. He said, you're talking like a bank, how will you become a fintech? Why should we invest in you? I said, look, in now my business, if I'm not building that, my business can collapse in a day's time, I'll be behind bars. So he was not ready to understand. After that, the regulation came in 3 months' time. He said, Sanjay, how came you got friends in RBI? How you came to know that it is coming? I said, in this business, it is required. I think what is the problem for fintech founder is 2 things. One is the capital, because for example, I become regulated entity, I have to block certain amount of capital. That, that regulator can really look at slightly differently, like in 0 to 3 years, you have to block this much time, because I'm just starting, I don't have so much money. I have to almost sell my place to get some money from my investor to block that kind of money. Second is cost of compliance. So see, if you expect me to really operate like a bank in terms of compliance, my compliance team today is probably 1/4 of the entire company, bigger than the sales team. So I joke now that compliance the sales guy के साथ मैं compliance को भेज देता हूँ, वो एक साथ ही करके आ जाएगा. Because it is just not possible without that, because I have to do KYC, KYB, everything, and then re-KYC, and It's not possible. Like, every transaction I need to monitor because the money is coming from outside. Today, being a small PSCB, I have got bigger complaints team than what a Reserve or a Caspi will be having because they are in a domestic business. So that is what really hurts. I think there is some way it is possible in terms of like regulation is definitely required so that you should not start a business, then you realize. But regulation can be light. Like most of the countries, when we actually applied for international licenses or look at subsidiaries, most of the countries are something like a light touch model and then a high touch model. I think that kind of thing can be done for the fintech. See, till this kind of volume we can go with this, but beyond that we can see. There are some of those functions available to make it slightly more easy.
Perfect.